Hello from Mindset Daily, wishing you a day full of health, peace, and happiness. Thank you for watching the Mindset Daily channel. Don't forget to like and subscribe to support us. Thank you so much.
Have you ever wondered why the most powerful people say the least? Why do the wisest individuals keep their plans close to the chest? And could silence be the greatest advantage you're not using? There's something profoundly powerful about silence, about keeping pieces of yourself hidden from the world. In an age where everyone rushes to share their every move, thought, and emotion, choosing to stay private becomes a rare and strategic act. When people don't know much about you, they can't predict your next move. They can't interfere with your plans, and, perhaps most importantly, they can't twist your words against you. Privacy is power. We often mistake openness for trust, believing that sharing everything with others will create stronger connections. But here's the truth. Not everyone who listens to you has good intentions. Some people only listen so they can discover your weaknesses. They nod, smile, and act like they care, while secretly waiting for the chance to use your own words to manipulate you, judge you, or spread rumors behind your back. The less they know, the less control they have over you. Just take a look around. People are posting their struggles online, confessing their deepest secrets to strangers, and then wondering why they feel betrayed, judged, or blocked from their goals. When you freely hand out the pieces of your life, you're also giving others the tools to shape your story. You're giving them access to your triumphs and your struggles, and suddenly, they feel entitled to decide what you deserve, what you're capable of, and even how your life should unfold. But when you keep things to yourself, when you protect your plans, your emotions, and your personal world, you remain in control. You become the author of your own life. No one else gets to define your journey but you. Think for a moment about the people who truly hold power. They move in silence. They don't broadcast their every decision, yet somehow, they're always 10 steps ahead. Why is that? Because they've learned the value of restraint. They understand that silence isn't emptiness, it's strategy. That's the thing, privacy protects progress. The very moment you speak too soon or reveal too much, you open the door for others to interfere. Sometimes it's jealousy. Sometimes it's doubt. Other times, it's just negativity wrapped in fake concern. But no matter the form, the more people know about your goals or plans, the more they feel entitled to weigh in. And let's be honest, not every opinion is worth listening to. Have you ever noticed that the loudest people, the ones constantly broadcasting what they're going to do, rarely follow through? That's not a coincidence. Talking about a goal can create a false sense of accomplishment. You mention your plan, people cheer you on, and suddenly, it feels like you've already achieved something. When in reality, nothing has changed. Words alone don't build legacies. Action does. The real winners? They don't chase validation. They don't announce every step or seek applause before it's earned. They quietly put in the work, and by the time anyone realizes what they've accomplished, it's already finished. Their success speaks louder than any declaration ever could. Being private doesn't mean you're hiding. It doesn't mean cutting yourself off from the world or living in secrecy. It simply means being intentional, choosing carefully what you share, when you share it, and with whom. Not everyone needs to know about your inner battles. Not everyone deserves to hear your biggest dreams. And not everyone is meant to carry pieces of your vulnerability. But here's the beauty of that mindset. Once you begin filtering what you share and with whom, you'll feel the difference almost immediately. Your mind quiets. The noise fades. The unnecessary drama falls away. And most importantly, your focus becomes razor sharp. There's a reason some of the most successful people on the planet are also some of the most private. They understand a simple truth. When you protect your personal life, you're not just setting boundaries. You're preserving your energy, your clarity, and your peace. And when you protect your energy, something powerful happens. You create space. Space for growth. Space for success. Space for joy. But that space can quickly be taken away if you're not careful. So the next time you feel the urge to overshare, whether it's revealing your next move, venting about your struggles, or just expressing your emotions to whoever will listen, pause for a moment. Ask yourself, do they really need to know this? Will sharing this information serve me? Or will it make me vulnerable? Because once something leaves your lips, there's no taking it back. What's spoken can be repeated. What's shared can be twisted. Privacy is power. And power, when used wisely, becomes protection. Not everyone who claps for you wants to see you win. Not everyone who smiles in your face is on your side. Some people are there for one reason only, to gather information. They stay close, not to support you, but to observe, to wait, and to eventually use what they've learned for their own benefit. That's why you must be careful. You have to be selective. You must realize that access to your inner world is a privilege, not a right. People will present themselves as friends, cheerleaders, or confidants. But beneath the surface, some are simply feeding their curiosity. They want to know how you think, what moves you emotionally, what brings you joy, and more importantly, what leaves you feeling exposed or weak. And the danger doesn't always show up immediately. Sometimes, they won't act on that knowledge right away. They'll store it, quietly, patiently, keeping it tucked away until the moment feels right. And when that time comes, when jealousy creeps in, when they feel threatened, or when their own insecurities flare up, that's when they strike. That's when you start hearing your private words echo back to you in the most unexpected and hurtful ways. Have you ever noticed how things in your life suddenly start going wrong right after you speak about them? You had a vision. You were moving in silence. Everything seemed aligned. And then, after sharing your plan with someone, it all begins to unravel. Why does that happen? You were excited. You shared your progress with someone you thought would be happy for you. And suddenly, everything started to fall apart. That's not just bad luck. That's not a coincidence. Sometimes, all it takes is sharing your light with the wrong person to dim it. The truth is, some people don't need to actively sabotage you. They don't have to say a word or lift a finger. Their negative energy alone. The silent envy, the unspoken resentment, the quiet hope that you'll fail, is enough to throw things off course. That's why it's so important to be mindful of who you allow into your space. This isn't about becoming paranoid. It's not about living in fear or isolating yourself from the world. It's about being intentional. It's about learning to recognize who truly supports you and who's only watching for their own entertainment. Because the truth is, not everyone in your circle is in your corner. Some people only want to be near you so they can say they were part of your story, so they can claim they were there when it happened. Others want to stay close not to lift you up, but to keep you from getting too far ahead. And then there are those who keep you around just so they have someone to gossip about, someone to compare themselves to, someone to secretly compete with while smiling to your face. The hard part? You often don't see it coming. You won't realize their true intentions until it's already too late, until they've gathered what they needed, used your own words against you, and quietly walked away, leaving you to deal with the damage. That's exactly why protecting your personal life matters so much. Your dreams, your struggles, your fears, those are sacred. The less people know, the less power they have to twist, judge, or control your path. The less they know, the more freedom you have to grow without interference. And don't ever assume that loyalty is guaranteed by time. Just because someone has been around for years doesn't mean they're trustworthy. Time doesn't prove loyalty. Character does. Some people will stand beside you for a decade, pretending to be your biggest supporter, while secretly hoping you never outshine them. Some people may stand beside you, pretending to be on your side, while secretly hoping you don't rise too high. Others might act supportive to your face, but speak doubt behind your back the moment you walk away. That's why it's so important to pay attention, not just to people's words, but to their energy, their behavior, and their silence. When things start going well for you, watch closely. Do they genuinely celebrate your success? Or do they suddenly fall silent, as if your progress makes them uncomfortable? Do they cheer you on without hesitation? Or do they drop subtle, backhanded comments designed to plant seeds of uncertainty in your mind? The signs are always there. The question is, are you willing to see them? At the end of the day, you don't owe anyone unrestricted access to your life. You don't have to explain your choices, your goals, your setbacks, or your vision to people who haven't earned your trust. Your energy, your peace, and your privacy, they are your responsibility to protect. And once you start handing those things out too freely, you lose the ability to control how others handle what you've shared. Because once it's out there, you can't pull it back. And by the time you realize you've confided in the wrong person, it's often too late. They already know what they need to know, and what they do with it is no longer in your hands. There's something undeniably powerful about a person who says little. Someone who moves with quiet confidence. Someone who doesn't feel the need to explain, justify, or announce every decision to the world. That kind of presence, measured, calm, and intentional, demands respect. Mystery carries weight. When people can't figure you out, when they don't know what you're planning, how you feel, or what your next move might be, they have no choice but to step back, watch, and wonder. And that wonder? That's what keeps you in control. People are naturally curious. They want to know what you're thinking, what you're building, and how you truly feel. Not always because they care, but because they're looking for ways to define you, to categorize you, to place you in a box they can understand and, in some cases, manage. The moment people think they have you all figured out, they stop paying attention. When they feel like they know everything about you, they stop respecting the mystery that once made you compelling. That's why it's so important to leave something unsaid, to keep parts of yourself private, to ensure that no one ever knows enough about you to define you. Think about the people who truly hold influence, the ones who walk into a room and shift the atmosphere without saying much. It's not because they're the loudest or because they constantly seek validation. It's because there's something about them that's intentionally withheld, something that invites curiosity. They don't lay it all out. They don't explain every thought or justify every choice. And because of that restraint, people lean in. They want to know more. Here's the truth. The more you say, the less weight your words carry. When you always feel the need to prove yourself, to defend every action, to narrate every step you take, you give others too much access. And with that access comes room for doubt. You invite opinions, criticism, even arguments that wouldn't exist if you had simply stayed quiet. But when you learn to say less, to move deliberately, and to resist the urge to explain everything, you become something far more powerful, unpredictable. You become someone who commands attention without demanding it. And in that mystery, there's strength. Have you ever noticed how the ones who talk the most are often the ones taken the least seriously? It's because when you overshare, when you constantly explain, reveal, and expose, you make people feel like they're entitled to your story. They begin to believe they have a say in how your life unfolds. And once they feel like they can predict you, they start to minimize you. They stop listening with curiosity. They stop respecting your uniqueness. But when people don't know what's coming next, when your next move isn't obvious, suddenly, you hold their attention. You maintain control, not by overpowering, but by remaining just out of reach. When people can't quite read you, when they're unsure of what you're thinking or where to place you, that's when they start paying closer attention. That's when respect enters the picture. It's not about being cold. It's not about distancing yourself emotionally. It's about being deliberate, intentional, and mindful of what you allow others to access. Some believe that being open with everyone is a mark of strength. They think sharing every thought, every emotion, every detail means they're being real. But true strength doesn't lie in how much you reveal. It lies in your ability to withhold. It's knowing that not every thought needs to be voiced. Not every plan has to be laid out. And not every emotion requires an explanation. Because here's the truth. When people don't know too much about you, they can't create a complete picture. Sure, they can speculate. They can make assumptions. But they'll never be fully certain. And in that uncertainty, you hold the advantage. That gap between what they know and what they don't, that's where power lives. It keeps people alert. It keeps them guessing. It keeps them watching closely, wondering what your next move might be. And when people are watching, curious, intrigued, and unsure, that's when you have influence. That's when your presence carries weight. So don't be so quick to explain yourself. Don't feel the need to offer your life story to anyone who asks. Don't hand out the blueprint to your inner world. Let them wonder. Let them guess. Let them sit with the fact that they don't fully understand you. Because once they realize they can't figure you out, they'll have no choice but to respect your boundaries and your power. One of the biggest mistakes people make is assuming that everyone in their circle needs to know everything about their life. They believe that by sharing all the details, every struggle, every success, every private thought, they'll build deeper connections. But more often than not, the opposite happens. The more you share, the more you expose yourself to opinions, judgment, and unnecessary drama. Not everyone needs to know what you're going through. Not everyone deserves access to your inner thoughts. And the truth is, not everyone can be trusted to handle your truth with care. Have you ever noticed how some problems seem to grow worse after you've shared them with the wrong person? Maybe you opened up, thinking you were confiding in a friend, only to later find that your words were twisted, your struggles were repeated, and your vulnerability was turned against you. That kind of betrayal doesn't happen by accident. Some people listen, not with compassion, but with calculation. They're not listening to understand. They're listening to respond, to store information, or simply to feel important. Some collect your pain like it's data, not because they want to help, but because they want to know. And others? They listen just for the entertainment value. Because people love a good story, especially when it's not their own. They thrive on gossip. They crave the feeling of being in the know, of having something juicy to pass along, even if it's at your expense. And if you keep giving them pieces of your life, they'll keep using it, repeating it, exaggerating it, twisting it until your truth barely resembles the version you once shared. Before long, your most personal moments are being passed around like rumors. What began as a heartfelt confession becomes distorted, stretched into something almost unrecognizable. And the worst part? It's often disguised as care. There are people who will pretend to be concerned just to keep you talking. They'll ask all the right questions. They'll nod at just the right moments. They'll make you feel safe, seen, and understood. But watch what happens afterward. Do they protect what you told them? Do they show up with real support? Or do they vanish, only to reappear when they're curious again about what's going on in your life? Because the wrong people aren't looking for solutions. They're looking for stories. They're not listening to help you heal. They're listening so they have something to share at the next opportunity. And if you become their source of constant detail, you also become the subject of conversations you'll never hear. If you've given your words to too many people, don't be surprised when you start hearing them echoed back to you from someone you never told. Some conflicts don't arise because of what actually happened. They erupt because too many people were made aware of it. What might have been a minor disagreement between two individuals can quickly spiral out of control when outside voices get involved. Once the crowd knows, opinions come flying. Sides are taken. Narratives get reshaped. And something that could have been handled quietly, respectfully, and privately now turns into a public spectacle. It grows bigger and messier than it ever needed to be, all because it wasn't kept between the right people. That's why silence is often your best defense. The less you say, the fewer chances people have to twist your words, insert themselves into your situation, or turn your personal business into public drama. And it's not just about staying quiet when there's conflict. It's also about being discreet when you're succeeding. Not everyone wants to see you win. Some will clap for you on the surface, but underneath, they're hoping you stumble. The moment they notice you doing well, something shifts. They start to feel uneasy, threatened even. That's when the subtle negativity creeps in. They'll start telling you your dreams are too big, that your plans are unrealistic, that you're not as talented or capable as you think you are. But the truth is, they don't believe that. They just don't want to see you rise above them. Have you ever noticed how some people only show up when you're struggling? But the second things start going right for you, they're suddenly nowhere to be found? That's not a coincidence. Some people are only comfortable when you're on their level or below it. The moment they see you rising, their support turns to silence, and their silence turns to resistance. Their insecurities start to show. They try to mask them with sarcasm, criticism, or backhanded compliments. You'll hear subtle remarks designed to shake your confidence. Not because they think you'll fail, but because they're afraid you won't. But here's the key. If you keep your progress to yourself, if you move quietly and protect your momentum, you deny them that power. They can't sabotage what they don't know. They can't challenge what they can't see. Silence is a shield. When you don't give people a front row seat to your progress, you also don't give them the opportunity to derail it. Not everyone needs to know what you're working on. Not every thought needs to be shared. Not every situation benefits from outside input. Sometimes, peace isn't found in fixing things. It's found in not letting them in to begin with. Peace comes from knowing when to remain silent, when to preserve your energy, and when to keep your business exactly where it belongs, with you. Because the less others know, the less power they have to interfere. It really is that simple. People love to talk about what they're going to do. They announce their goals, broadcast their dreams, hype up their next big move. All under the illusion that speaking it aloud somehow makes it more real. But the reality is, words without action are empty. And the more time you spend talking about what you're going to do, the less time and energy you have to actually make it happen. The loudest voice in the room is rarely the one making the greatest impact. It's usually the one who remains quiet, focused, and disciplined. The one who doesn't seek applause before they've even begun. The person who moves with purpose and silence, without needing public validation at every step. There's undeniable strength in someone who doesn't feel the need to explain everything. Someone who doesn't announce every phase of their journey. Someone who just puts their head down and does the work and lets the results do the talking. Have you ever noticed how the most successful people don't go around making big declarations? They don't warn the world about what they're about to do. They don't give speeches about their future plans. One day, they just appear at the top. No build-up, no noise, just results. That's because they understand a simple but powerful truth. Real progress thrives in private. When you keep your plans to yourself, you remove distractions. You silence outside opinions. And most importantly, you give yourself the mental space to focus fully on execution. But the moment you start talking too much about your vision, your goals, your next steps, you open the door. And once that door is open, distractions, doubt, and resistance begin to walk in. When you talk too much about what you're going to do, you invite unnecessary negativity into your space. Some people won't believe in you, not because your goals are unrealistic, but because they can't imagine that kind of success for themselves. They'll tell you it's impossible, that you're not ready, that you should lower your expectations, not because they know what's best for you, but because they're projecting their own limitations. If they can't picture themselves winning, they don't want to see you win either. Others may pretend to be supportive. They'll smile, nod, and even encourage you in public. But behind closed doors, they're secretly hoping you don't follow through. Because if you succeed, it reminds them of everything they never had the courage to try. And then there are those who will outright steal your ideas. You think you're sharing something meaningful, something unique. You speak with excitement, feeling inspired, only to watch someone else take your concept and run with it. They move fast, and before you even have the chance to bring your plan to life, they're already ahead, using what they heard from you as their own. It happens more often than we realize. People listen, not just to support, but to benefit. That's why protecting your vision is so important. When you keep your plans to yourself, when you move silently and focus on execution, no one can take what they don't know exists. Talking about your goals often gives you a premature sense of accomplishment. You say you're going to do something. People clap. They cheer you on. And in that moment, it feels like you've already achieved something. But applause without action is nothing more than noise. The truth is, the real work doesn't happen during the announcement. It happens in the grind, in the execution, in the discipline that no one sees. The biggest problem with sharing your goals too soon is that once the hype fades, you're left with the difficult part, the doing. And by then, the energy you needed to carry you forward has already been spent on talking. You don't owe anyone an explanation. You don't have to defend your vision, justify your moves, or seek validation before taking action. You don't need anyone's approval before you take action. The only validation that matters is the result. When you succeed, people will see it for themselves. When you accomplish what you set out to do, there will be no need for explanations or justifications. Your work will speak louder than any words ever could. And when that moment comes, the same people who doubted you, who overlooked you, who never took you seriously, will suddenly be the ones asking how you did it. But by then, it won't matter, because you didn't do it for them. You weren't chasing their applause. You were doing it for yourself, for your purpose, your growth, your vision. So don't waste time talking. Don't burn precious energy explaining. And don't give others the opportunity to derail your momentum. Stay quiet, stay focused, and let your results do the talking. There's something powerful, almost magnetic, about keeping your plans to yourself. When people don't know what's going on in your life, they can't interfere. They can't insert their doubts. They can't stall your momentum or infect your confidence with uncertainty. That edge, your silence, isn't secrecy. It's protection. Protecting your privacy isn't about being cold or distant. It's about preserving your peace. It's about guarding your focus. It's about creating an environment where your ideas, your growth, and your progress aren't weighed down by noise, judgment, or distractions. Because the truth is, the more people know, the more they feel entitled to have a voice in your life. And not every voice deserves to be heard. People love to offer advice, whether they're qualified or not. The moment you share your dreams, your goals, or even your struggles, you open the door for opinions to flood in. Some will genuinely want to help, offering encouragement and thoughtful support. But many will only bring confusion, discouragement, or subtle forms of doubt. They'll tell you why it's not possible, why it won't work, why someone else already did it better. And even if you don't consciously believe them, their words stay with you. They linger in the back of your mind, showing up at your weakest moments, right when you should be pushing forward. And then there are those who pretend to support you, but silently hope you fail. They smile, they nod, they say all the right things, but deep down, they're uncomfortable with your growth. Because the moment you start rising, the moment you begin transforming, it forces them to confront their own stagnation. And instead of using your progress as motivation to rise with you, they would rather pull you back down, just to keep themselves comfortable. Some people would rather make you feel guilty for wanting more, for dreaming bigger, for refusing to settle for the bare minimum. They'll question your ambition, not because it's wrong, but because it reminds them of everything they're not willing to chase. That's why protecting your energy is not just helpful, it's essential. Not everyone deserves access to your thoughts, your plans, or your emotions. The more voices you allow into your space, the harder it becomes to hear your own. And once you begin letting other people's opinions shape your decisions, you slowly give up control of your own path. You begin to hesitate where you once moved confidently. You start looking outward for approval when you should be looking inward for clarity. Have you ever caught yourself second-guessing a decision that once felt right, simply because someone else didn't understand it? Some people drain you without even realizing it. They show up with their complaints, their negativity, their problems, and suddenly, your mind is full of clutter that has nothing to do with your purpose. And the more time you spend trying to sort through their baggage, the less time and energy you have to invest in your own growth. You can't build a meaningful future while being weighed down by the expectations, doubts, and projections of others. Real growth requires something deeper. It requires focus. It requires discipline. It demands a kind of tunnel vision that many people around you simply won't understand. And that's perfectly okay. You're not here to make everyone comfortable. You're not here to explain your vision to people who were never meant to see it. You're here to become the person you were always meant to be. And that journey doesn't require an audience. Those who are meant to support you will do so quietly, without demanding constant updates or validation. And the ones who don't align with your growth, they'll eventually drift away, especially when they realize they no longer have unrestricted access to your mind, your emotions, or your direction. Silence isn't weakness. Privacy isn't isolation. They're forms of strength. They're signs of clarity. They're proof that you understand the value of guarding your purpose from the noise of the world. Your path is yours alone. Not everyone deserves a front row seat to your transformation. Some things in life are meant to be kept sacred, to be protected and nurtured in solitude, until they are strong enough to stand tall, even under pressure. And when you protect your peace, when you defend your energy, and when you focus fully on your own growth without unnecessary interference, that's when you thrive. That's when you rise. So stay focused, stay quiet, and never let anyone have more access to your life than they truly deserve. Wishing you peace, strength, and unwavering clarity. Take care of yourself, keep growing, and don't forget to subscribe to Mindset Daily for more messages just like this. Stay healthy and stay happy.